We are jumping straight into some source material today that is, well, it's designed to be intellectually aggressive.
It really is.
We have a powerful critique. The author calls it a discernment drop from Pastor John L. Widdifield. It's titled, "Love is Love, the Dumbest Sentence in Modern Moral Language."
Our goal is to analyze the machinery of Widdifield's argument. He's really launching a targeted strike on the language, on the logic of it.
And the rhetorical strategy.
Exactly. We're looking at why he finds this incredibly common phrase to be so intellectually hollow. So we're analyzing the argument, not endorsing the theology behind it, but you have to respect the directness.
Oh, that directness is absolutely key. He writes with this assumption that we're all intelligent adults who are just tired of the shortcuts.
Yeah, the rhetorical nonsense.
It's relentlessly clear. And that clarity is where you find the humor, but also the sting of the critique. It's an approach that really demands you pay attention to how we're using words in these moral conversations.
Which is the whole point, right? When you're talking about core values, definitions matter. They matter profoundly. If you can't define your terms, how can you even start an ethical conversation?
Right. So let's start where he does, at the linguistic core of the problem.
The tautology.
Widdifield's opening shot is to call the phrase "love is love" what it is linguistically, a tautology.
Right.
It just says the same word twice and then pretends that this repetition has somehow clarified or defined the concept. He calls it a sentence so profound it explains nothing at all.
It really is the simplest form of a non-argument. I mean, a tautology is just an unnecessary repetition. He's not just using the term as a label, he's using it as a weapon.
A weapon? How so?
Well, his point is that by repeating the word, all you've proven is that you can say it twice. You haven't proven anything about its nature, its purpose, its boundaries, or, any necessary limitations.
And he uses these wonderfully absurd examples to prove how this mechanism just fails when you apply it to anything else. And we don't need to spend much time here because the absurdity just makes the point so obvious.
He literally asks you to try it out. Like, walk up to someone and declare, "French fries, French fry."
Right. What have you learned?
Nothing. Are we talking shoestring, crinkle cut, or, as he puts it, just raw potato or motor oil? It gives you zero information.
Or another one he uses is purple is purple. Is that lavender?
Mm-hmm.
Royal purple, a bruise, Barney the dinosaur. The word by itself doesn't define its own boundaries just by being repeated.
No.
And Widdifield argues that the moment you choose to use a tautology in a serious moral debate, you've pretty much already signaled an intellectual surrender.
And the real insight here, and this is crucial for you, the listener, to grasp, isn't just that the phrase is linguistically empty. I think we can all see that.
Okay, the insight is why an intellectually empty phrase can be so rhetorically powerful. If it's a failure as logic, it must be succeeding as something else.
As rhetoric, why do people use it?
This is the pivot. He says people use it because it creates this feeling of moral completeness, but without any of the actual effort of thought.
So you get the emotional weight of a definition without the burden of actually having to define it or defend it.
Precisely. And that ties directly into his next point about the strategic function of the phrase.
Yeah.
If it's not an argument, what is it doing?
So we're moving from the linguistic failure to, I guess, its functional success.
Yeah.
If love is an argument, it's a total failure. But Widdifield says it's not meant to be an argument. He calls it a thought stopper.
A linguistic speed bump designed to prevent moral reasoning from reaching the intersection. That's the quote.
It's such a powerful image.
It is. It's a diagnosis of the phrase's real utility. It's used to control the conversation. It's a verbal tool designed to just shut down the critical faculties of anyone listening, to stop them from asking the natural, necessary questions that should follow any big moral claim.
Right. And he gets very specific about what he thinks the person using the slogan is actually demanding. They aren't asking for you to understand. They're issuing commands.
The sourcing is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very blunt here.
It is. He says when someone uses that phrase, they are implicitly saying, 1, don't ask me to define this.
Okay.
2, don't ask me to evaluate or judge this. And the most provocative one is the third claim.
Which is?
The phrase is basically a demand that translates to, please turn off your brain and clap.
Wow. Turn off your brain and clap. That's a really severe charge. What does he think the practical danger of that is? Because, surely some people use it with genuine, compassionate intent.
And that's the exact distinction he wants to make. He insists this isn't genuine compassion. It is, and this is his phrase, moral laziness disguised as compassion. He calls it intellectually evasive. It lets the speaker claim the moral high ground without doing any of the hard work of ethics. He compares it to a toddler saying, "Because I said so."
Except he says the toddler's more honest because they at least admit they don't have a better reason.
Exactly. So the real function is about conferral. You skip the entire ethical process, the defining, the testing, the weighing, and you jump straight to the emotional payoff.
I am good, and you have to agree with me.
Precisely. And Widdifield lays out this threefold functional consequence. One, it shuts down discussion instantly. Two, it replaces rigorous ethics with, fleeting emotion. And three, and this is critical, it labels any disagreement as hate.
Which confers moral superiority without work.
There it is. The phrase isn't a definition, it's a verbal shield. And who needs a shield? People whose ideas don't want their ideas tested.
And that's the takeaway for you. It's about recognizing when language is being used as a shield to deflect questions rather than as a tool to actually convey meaning.
Which brings us to the need for boundaries. I mean, any word that actually matters has to have boundaries.
Right.
Widdifield's argument is that every meaningful word requires definition, distinction, borders. If you can't define what love is, you have absolutely no way of defining what it is not.
And the moment you take away those boundaries, the word just, it collapses.
It becomes useless.
Real love, in his critique, has to have a purpose, a direction, a cost, obligation, consequence. If it's just a feeling, it's useless as a moral category.
And this brings up the really essential philosophical problem that he's posing. What happens when love is functionally undefined?
If it's just whatever anyone feels at any given moment.
Then the moral distinction between what's healthy and what's destructive just evaporates instantly.
And the list of consequences he provides is so sharp and, frankly, disturbing. Once that definition collapses, the moral category is gone. Suddenly, all those distinctions are gone, and every action is sort of equally valid.
Right, so possession becomes love.
Obsession becomes love.
Abuse becomes love. Lust is love. Control is love. Narcissism is love. I mean, if you can't define love, how can you condemn any of those things as being unloving?
His conclusion is pretty unavoidable then. Nothing is wrong.
Except people who ask questions.
The refusal to define is the very thing that protects behaviors that can't stand up to scrutiny.
And this whole intellectual failure, as Widdifield points out, is set against this massive backdrop of cultural irony. This is where he thinks the whole thing becomes darkly funny.
He calls it the irony that should make you laugh or cry.
Yeah.
And you just have to think about the culture that uses this slogan. It's a culture that is, everywhere else, hyper-focused on linguistic precision. They are constantly redefining, deconstructing, footnoting every term you can imagine.
The source material just hammers this contrast. We have a culture that meticulously defines gender, endlessly redefines personal identity, footnotes, power structures, deconstructs every word in history.
And yet they refuse to define the one concept that actually shapes souls and societies.
Oh. And what's the explanation for this massive logical inconsistency?
The tautology. Same word twice. Good enough.
He insists this isn't an accident. It's a deliberate failure to apply critical thinking where it matters most, because applying it would mean you'd have to build boundaries around the term.
And it forces you, the listener, to really grapple with that question. Why apply such agonizing precision to so many other things?
Things arguably less central to our moral architecture.
Only to resort to a sort of linguistic shrug when you're faced with the core of human connection.
And this is where he pivots. This whole deep dive is based on a critique from a very specific theological context, and he uses that context to offer his alternative definition.
It's the antidote, he would say, to the vagueness he just spent all this time tearing down.
A very sharp pivot. He says Christianity does not say love is love, that tautology is completely rejected.
Instead, the defining statement is different.
It is. Christianity says God is love.
And that, for Widdifield, is the anti-tautology.
Exactly. It doesn't repeat the word. It defines love by pointing to an external, specific, non-negotiable object, God.
Which immediately removes the concept from the realm of just personal feeling or subjective desire.
The definition gets an anchor.
And the source goes on to detail exactly how this new definition works. It's not just a nice phrase. Defining love as God means you define love through specificity. It defines him, reveals him, incarnates him, and ultimately it nails him to a cross.
For him, the cross is the physical, historical definition of love. That's the ultimate boundary, the ultimate cost, the ultimate consequence. It defines what love has to be by showing what it cost.
And he stresses this definition is terrifyingly specific, not vague. It requires submission, not just a feeling.
And we should just pause here because this is the core contrast he's building. The love is love slogan requires nothing from you, just momentary emotional agreement. It costs nothing.
Whereas the Christian definition, as he presents it, requires everything.
Everything. It sets boundaries based on divine law and demands obedience, sacrifice. If love is defined by the cross, then all those other things, possession, obsession, abuse, lust, control, they're immediately and specifically excluded.
Because they violate the core principles of that sacrificial, costly, non-narcissistic action.
Right. It sets up a binary for you, the listener. One definition is intellectually evasive, a verbal shield, an emotional slogan made to end dialogue.
And the other, he argues, is a complete, costly, and painfully specific blueprint for what love has to look like, if it's going to mean anything at all ethically.
It's not just an alternative, it's a moral hammer line. It's designed to show that any meaningful definition of love requires obligation and consequence and external criteria that go beyond what you just happen to prefer.
Without that anchor, the word is just vapor.
Mm-hmm.
So after all that, what does this highly provocative deep dive mean for you?
Widifield's critique is really a fundamental challenge to how we use language in moral conversations. It's a demand that we require specific, bounded definitions if we want our conversations about ethics and values to actually matter.
Instead of just devolving into, as he would say, intellectual mush.
And this is your aha moment about rhetorical defense mechanisms. You can now recognize when language is being used not to convey thought, but to actively stop it.
To prevent reasoning from even getting started.
It challenges you to demand boundaries for the words that shape how you see the world.
And for anyone who appreciates Widdifield's blunt style, he offers a final thought, a memorable rhetorical hammerline for you to consider using the next time you hear the slogan.
He argues that if someone tells you love is love, you are fully justified intellectually, morally, and linguistically to just respond with a statement of equal, pointless repetition.
It levels the field immediately.
It does. The response he recommends for you to consider.
Cool. Gravity is gravity. Truth is truth. Logic is logic. And nonsense is still nonsense.
A challenge to demand definitions, and a reminder that slogans are not arguments.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the source material. We'll catch you next time.